Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk.
I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ. We had a little bit of too much
and
dead air there.
it is Wednesday in the Rev, and I got my tax bill, so forgive me if I wasn't paying attention. I was reading some of the comments from people after that that alternate universe freaking swearing in ceremony when all the people from that live in the alternate universe in Fall River were up there talking bullshit up from their universe. It's like the Star Wars bar that's up there because they don't live in the Fall River we live in, because we got these people, Ork and Jakey. Jakey went to MIT and Harvard, the two colleges that were on nationwide TV saying it's okay to say kill all the Jews, unless it's in context. Killing any group, genocide of any group, is reprehensible, obviously, and they couldn't do it. So now the Harvard, they teach. Now I know why he is the way he is. He's not only rich from Newtonville, a little even richer enclave within Newton. He went to Harvard, he went to MIT, and he's related to the Kennedys. Well, not really the Kennedys. Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy. I looked him up. I checked him out. No wonder he's clueless. If that kid wouldn't last, when he grew up, he wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes in the streets of Fall River. That's why he can get up there and say, Paul Coogan is a problem solver. That's what he said. He's a problem solver. So let's see what problems Paul has solved. Has he solved the crime problem? No. We're still around the top 5 no matter which way you look at it. Has he solved the educational problem? No. Last time the rankings came out, we were 336th out of 351 cities and towns. Has he solved the affordable housing problem? No. Has he solved the problem of sexual harassment, lawsuits, ATVs in the streets? Police officer just got dragged a little while ago. He has solved absolutely nothing that affects the quality of life of the average Fall Riverite. Nothing. The only problem he solved is how his rich friends can make more money, and how his unemployed friends can get a job and a pay raise. Those are the only problems he solved. I got my tax bill, and I got them right here. Here they are. That was my preliminary bill. This is the actual bill. So I don't know. They're paying these people a lot of money to assess this. This preliminary bill was a con. People complained about this one. How anybody? This was done intentionally because he was running for office. This was just a little pinch. This is an evisceration. How can an assessor send out a preliminary? What kind of numbers did you use? Where I got a bill, and my next bill is 107.2% higher. It's more than double from your preliminary bill. You think that was a con before the election? I do. How can anybody be that far? They should fire him. Fire the assessor. Fire all the consultants. Stop the lawsuits. Do something to give the regular people in Fall River a chance. I'm going to pay in 1/4 more than the retirees get when they get a COLA raise, which is $360 a year. How do you expect people on fixed incomes to keep up with this? You don't, because you and your friends want everybody to move out. How are people on fixed incomes going to do this? How are the people, the 60% of the retirees that are making less than $30,000, the 50% that are making $25,000, and we got 300 and some of them that are making less than $20,000, less than $18,000, and they're losing $7,000 to inflation. How in the hell do you people think all you ever do is keep giving him money, letting him make jobs, and then you got this new clown that just slid over from the school department going on a radio, Paul Hart? Well, you know, you want things, you got to pay for them. Yeah? Right there. I'm not paying for Paul to create 4 jobs where there was 1. 4 supervisors. I'm not paying for him to hire consultants when you're paying the CFO 150 grand. She can't do the job, fire her ass. Hire somebody who can do it. You didn't hire one. You got to hire Capone, and then you got a financial analyst now. You want to make a deputy superintendent of schools. You got 6 assistant superintendents of schools. I'm not paying for that shit. You know what I pay my taxes for? Safe streets and good education, and I'm getting neither. I pay taxes for fire, police, education, trash pickup because it's a health hazard if they don't do it. I pay for essential services. You're going to tell me I want things I got to pay? Well, guess what? Why don't you ask me what I want? You're not asking me what the hell I want or any of the other citizens. And here's some of the commentary that people sent me already. Monica Cabral, term limits, local level, national level, federal, stop the corruption. Philip Patello, if he is for the residents, so why are taxes so high? You ain't seen nothing yet. Wait till Dimey gets here. He's getting people to leave Fall River. You're right. Anybody that can will. Anybody that can will. This is a joke. This is all about 79 and the train. You're right. You're right, Mr. Patello. It's all about his rich friends. Jamie Silver. Clown show, giving out market rate housing tax breaks like candy while charging me and more on my property. That's just a couple. There's going to be a whole lot more. So I'm telling you right now, we're in for a real, and I'll tell you, everybody, go down to the council when they're talking about the budget. Send them all, melt their phone lines during budget time. Tell them, we're sick of it. They won't tell us how much they've paid in lawsuits. And have they done another thing? Oh yeah, Paul's a problem solver. Has he solved the problem of sexual harassment, bullying, age discrimination in the school department? Remember Malone? He's gone. He's long gone. We got a new superintendent. She's got all kinds of help. They want to hire a deputy superintendent to give them more help. Have we passed a progressive discipline plan for the schools and its employees? No, absolutely not. We haven't done shit to stop these lawsuits. Nothing. All they do is tell us, shut up and pay. You want things, you got to pay for them. Well, guess what? I don't want the things that you want. You want those things, go up with Jakey. Get a hitch a ride with him back to Newtonville. This is not Newtonville. You are going to you're killing this city, and you're going to pretend that you're going to. We're on the rise. We're on the rise. The only thing that's rising is our tax bills. What are people like who own multiple family houses that are owner occupied? They're going to reach critical mass. The taxes are going to go so high, they can't defer most of that, defer even some of it to their tenants, because their tenants will now move out because they can't afford it. Because people who keep their rents where their tenants can afford it will no longer be able to do that. This is a catastrophe, an absolute catastrophe. That's what you get when you put a guy that did nothing but live off the political dole his whole life, never earned a job, never took a test for a job, just kissed ass. And with that, CJ, I'm turning it back to you.
Isn't that the Coogan mantra? Kiss ass. It's very interesting to see. We've been getting some comments this morning. Not a lot of them, but enough. And I think it's interesting that you brought up multi-family homes, because multi-family homes are on the market, or I should say, are not on the market, and realtors and investors are calling from the Boston area, not from local, from Boston, to buy the properties, and sight unseen, they're making huge offers, which means that as soon as they sell the property, the new owner is going to jack up the rent, unless they have a lease, which ties in the amount of money they have to pay for the balance of that lease. But at the end of that lease, they'll jack up the rents tremendously. They have to. Mortgages are at 6-7%. And if you're going to mortgage $700,000 or $800,000, somebody's got to pay that mortgage. Somebody's got to pay for that mortgage. Somebody's got to pay those taxes. I got my taxes too, and guess what? You're right. They were ridiculous. I told you when I got it. I got it before the first of the year, which was supposed to happen. But you got it afterwards. Mail to the Flint is slow, I guess. This is what happens in Fall River. People just think, well, he's a nice guy. He fixed my street. He fixed my pothole. He fixed my telephone pole. He did this. He did that. She did this. She did that. And they do it. I mean, you had Linda talking about the fact that the reason why she's been in for 25 years is because of all the good she's done for the city. I haven't seen a lot of good in the city recently. I haven't. I have seen a lot of hate. I've seen a lot of demise. I've seen a lot of lack of confidence. And that's a problem. We have a mayor that says he connects with the community, but he only connects with a select few of the community. And you and I know that, Chip, because he doesn't connect with us at all. And he hasn't connected with us for years. As a matter of fact, he went so far as to be afraid of us. He told the BCC that I will not give you your money if you don't get him off the air. And they got us off the air because to BCC, the money was more important than freedom of speech. And this is the first of the year. And let me tell you something. We're going to push this year. We're going to get the lawyers on off their asses and on the ball and stop filing those lawsuits in federal court for violation of our civil rights. And somebody says, well, you've got no damages. I've got damages. I was defamed. Chip was defamed. Unlike a politician, we can sue for defamation. We can sue for libel. You've attacked our credibility. And that is not acceptable. That is not acceptable. And if I could, Paul, I'd have them file a lawsuit against you personally. But because you did it as acting as mayor, the city's going to have to pay that bill. And this one's not going to settle for 35 or 45 or 55 or 155 or $655,000. Because I would rather have a jury, a federal jury, decide what you did than to settle this case. And believe me, I think Chip might be in the same opinion that he'd rather have a federal jury decide it because guess what? They decide big bucks. They decide big bucks. And it won't happen. And as for Laura Washington and Mimi Larrabee, they get sued personally. The city can't defend them. Cannot defend them because they did not act as a city councilor or school committee member when they wrote those letters. They acted as personal individuals. And that's a problem. We could bankrupt them and they could pay the bill. But guess what? They don't care. They don't care. Because guess what? It'll also bankrupt the city of Fall River. And again, they don't care.
Well,
I
the
don't know,
only
Chip.
their only saving grace is that the courts are so tied up now trying to not have the people be able to vote for who they want to vote for, that the people that we have that handle these kind of cases are backlogged so badly. I don't know when they're going to be able to take our case, but it will come. You remember what Tolstoy said. The two greatest warriors are time and patience. So we've had patience, and Mr. X, you're right. Yeah, I think he is the great compounder. That's not problem solver, problem compounder. I believe he said. Very, very appropriate. Yeah, because listen, this is the problem. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. You can see it right from the top down. Joe Biden only cares about the elitists. They only care about their hippie. They pretend to care about the regular people, but they don't. And we have these elitists. They all have state jobs or city jobs or political jobs, and they're not worried about tax increases. They're just gonna keep giving themselves pay raises, or their friends are gonna give them a pay raise. They don't care. They don't care. Paulie doesn't care what he does to the tax rate in Fall River. He's not living here when he's not mayor. This will be his last term, whether he wants another one or not, because after the city sees what is being done to it, there is going to be a revolution in the next mayoral election and city council election. For these people to have the inconceivable lack and grasp on reality, lack of perspective and grasp on reality, to say the things that come out of their mouth. Do they have any idea what city they live in? For Paul Hart to come out and say, well, you want things, you gotta pay for. No shit. Gee, Paul, you're like the oracle at Delphi. You really know your stuff, you gotta pay for it. Well, guess what? We all know we have to pay for things. But we're supposed to get the things that we want when we're paying the bill. But you don't give us what we want. You forget that you're supposed to be there to represent us. You don't even know the city that you live in. And I'm going to check it. I was so infuriated by my tax bill. I haven't checked the most recent per capita income in Fall River, but the last time I checked it was like $28,000, which is like less than half of the state average, almost a third of the state. It hasn't budged basically in a decade. It used to be 26, 25. Household incomes has risen a little bit because those households take into account all the people who are the fat cats, who are getting the huge pay raises. So, but the per capita income is a dramatic comparison. How the per capita income, the individual income, has stayed so low shows the tremendous disparity between the rich and the poor in this city. But you people are incapable of logical and critical thinking. You can't look at numbers and interpret them. That's why you spend the way you do. You let a CFO sit in front of you and say, oh, we're going to fund this with some investments we got down the road that we're looking at. That's not a funding source. I can tell you work for the state. They don't look. They just look at our pocketbooks. Just take more money from the serfs. You can't figure out, do you think a company would say we have a funding source with investments that we're planning to take without knowing the complete investment portfolio of those companies? What their rate of return is? How solid that company is? How viable that company is? Of course not. But they're dealing in a real world where if they piss all their money away, they're out of business. You people never go out of business. You never go out of business. And CJ's right. It's not about fixing potholes. It's not about getting a street light put in. That's supposed to be automatic. You shouldn't have to call a city councilor to do that. Problem with us is we've got long memories and we've been around a long time. I remember 20 years ago when at the city council, the city administrator said, we're going to set up a fund to make sure all the streets are always in good repair. That never happened. It never happened. Just like anything that does something good for the general public ever happens in Fall River. Paul is not a problem solver. As Mr. X said, he's a problem complicator. He gives us all a lot of problems while he makes his friends rich and does nothing. Jakey wants to call him a problem solver. You know, I called Auchincloss, I don't know how, when he first got in, about some issues with the retirees and how they're living, some of them are living in virtually abject poverty, and they can't even afford to eat if they have to buy medications. These people are living on peanuts, and some of them are going to lose their houses that have been paid for 30, 40 years because they can't afford the taxes. That's not too far down the road. People are going to be thrown out of their apartments because when their landlords try to raise their rent a little bit, they're not going to be able to afford it. I mean, these people live in they live in their elitist world. Jakey goes back to Newtonville and talks to the rest of the Harvard Yard people who say, it's okay. It's okay. We'll only protect the people we like. But you can yell, kill the Jews. Go ahead. No big deal. You got to put it in context. What context is that? And I'm going to close right now with reminding everybody of that speech from Luton Minister Nehemiah that is actually, I don't know if it's still there. They might have knocked it down already. Who knows? I probably shouldn't remind them it's there. They'll probably desecrate it. But there is a Holocaust memorial right outside of Faneuil Hall. And on that memorial, there is uh, the speech that Nehemiah gave when he said, and I'm paraphrasing now because it's a lengthy one. You'll get the point. He said, the first they came for the trade unionists, and I said nothing because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came. Then they came for uh, the whole list of people. But he said then they came for the Catholics, and I wasn't a Catholic. I said nothing. And then they came for the Jews, and I said nothing. And then he went down. There's about 4 or 5 of them. But it's the end of it that means so much. It said, he said nothing when they didn't care about other people being eliminated because of their religion, their skin color, or whatever. And at the end of that, he said, when they came for me, there was no one left to speak. That's right. There was no one left to speak up for him. And when college presidents can say that we're prepared by woke lawyers to say, well, it depends on the context to eliminate an entire group because of their religion, the next person in line may be your religion. This is just unconscionable. I don't know what's happened to this country, but I know one thing. This morning on the radio, weather guy, I guess who was a history major too, was commenting about this and said how this educational system, everything it's non-existent anymore. And he said, I will give you a historical context. And he was right. It was very, very, really good. You want to talk about context? Here's a really good one. Put it in context. He said, 100 years ago, in our schools, they taught Latin and Greek. Today in our colleges, they're teaching remedial English. And with that, CJ, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, I'll tell you, it doesn't make for a good report card on the educational system in the United States, and especially in Fall River. I remember when I went to school, we had special educational programs, not special ed, special educational program for the gifted children. They started bringing that back now, but it's not the same. We had to take a language, we had to take special sciences. We were separated from the regular class. Not because the regular class was stupid, but because they were going to present us with more intense educational studies. And they did that. And our educational system was thriving then, before education reform, before we had the state looking over our shoulder saying, oh no, you got to do this, you got to meet net school spending. Because all we hear about is net school spending. And then we hear Shelley Pereira going, oh, we need more money. We need more money. We're not giving you enough money. The state's not giving you enough money. You don't need any more money. You need to cut the personnel. And I'm going to tell you now, there have been rumors from Bridget, the chief financial officer, and from other people in city government that the state is going to be presenting 9 C cuts to the cities and towns. Why would they be doing that with the windfall of cash? Why would they be doing that at all? We've been listening to what's coming out of the State House. And nowhere does there any 9 C cuts come out of the State House. Nowhere. 9 C cuts would be devastating to Fall River. But if you believe the lies that are spewed by the mayor and his staff, because remember, his staff, his administration has brought Fall River to the point that we're on the rise. We're doing such a great job. So, okay. And here's Ms. X saying, a representative from there said no 9C cuts. We knew that. We knew there was going to be no 9C cuts. We talked about that. We follow the facts, not the rumors. And when it's a rumor, we tell you it's a rumor. We do not pull punches. Go ahead, Chip.
And along with that fact, I will give you, like I say, we always give you the most recent we can. So while CJ was going, I quickly went on because it was a while ago when I went up. The per capita income in Fall River has gone from 28 to 30,000. Wow, that's still less than half what the state gets. But here's the big one: the the poverty rate in Fall River is still 19.7%. 20% of the people, that means 1 out of 5 people, is living below the poverty level. Our per capita income is only $30,000 a year. $30,000 a year. And the median has gone up from 48 to 52, again, showing the disparity between the rich and the poor. But they don't know how to analyze these numbers. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. The poverty rate is still 20%, and our per capita income has only gone up an insignificant amount in the last decade. So if you can't figure this out, I'll tell you, people, you got to do something. You got to do something, because this city, we will ultimately have to pay the ban, and we will end up in receivership. And that thing was an absolute ode to political bullshit yesterday. That swearing in ceremony, you had them all up there telling each other how honored they were to be with each other. Yes, yes, the coven of bullshit. That's what happened yesterday. I don't know how you could watch it, CJ. I couldn't have done it, because I would have had to put on 2 football helmets and bang myself with a hammer every 3 seconds while I was watching that thing. There's no way I could watch that without getting physically ill, and probably trying to hurt myself. So with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, what was very interesting about that yesterday was the fact that Maura Healey brought up that Fall River is doing so wonderful with housing. It's market rate housing. We're not doing well. Woonsocket just took a mill building and they're redeveloping it for what? Affordable housing. Imagine that, Woonsocket, a city very much like Fall River. What does Paul do? Oh, I made 4 units. So we're all set. I made 6 units. We're all set. I made 8 units. We're all set. I don't know how many units you made. I don't care. They're not enough. When you have a lottery to get an affordable housing unit and there's 500 people waiting for 2 or 3 units, that's a problem. Market rate housing is not going to solve Fall River's problems like you think, Paul. All it's doing right now is lining your political campaign accounts, which, if you're not going to run, spend it down. Get rid of it. Throw parties. Do like you did yesterday. Pay for the meal. People deserve better than what they're getting. And that's the problem. They have been so beat down for so long, they don't think they deserve any better. And that is what is wrong. You deserve better.
Yeah, you know something, CJ? He does know it's not helping. The reality is, everybody in the country, like they had an alternate universe up there talking about each other, how great they're. Maura Healey doesn't know what the hell's going on in Fall River. She without a GPS, she couldn't find her way back to Boston. None of them could. They don't want to be here. Everywhere else in the country, affordable housing is a crisis. Just like the only place that the T works is Fall River in New Bedford, supposedly. We saw the article in the Herald News that dispelled that bullshit. But the reality is, this is Fall River. Maura Healey, Paul told her everything's great in Fall River, so she's going to say, yeah, boy, that he endorsed me, I'm going to endorse him. We love each other. We're typical politicians. And remember, even a state of Rhode Island, on the state level, and they admitted it, because it's an election year. What are they going to be talking about? More state funding for affordable housing in Rhode Island.
That's right.
The entire state, and each city like Woonsocket and Cranston and Providence. Brett Smiley just put, what, 5.4 million more in for affordable housing? The only place on the planet Earth, the only place in the continental United States where affordable housing isn't needed is Fall River. And if you believe that, I got a mountain in Florida to sell you. Just give me a call.
Well, I'm sorry we couldn't get to part 4 of the retirement meeting. We might get to it on Friday. But remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on Friday.